is Jason from Earth Source Minerals. It is Monday, June 24th, 2019. It has been 3 weeks since our last update. During that time, we have been working very diligently to accomplish the very last item on our punch list to be in commercial production. After a very extended, concerted effort by Armando and our staff in Liberia, Armando was finally able to upload to me the following video update from Garlow Claim 19 that we're going to share with you today. So before I steal any of Armando's thunder, let's get right into his video. And once that wraps up, I'll hop back on for a little bit and take care of a little business. So please enjoy Armando's video. It's what we've been waiting for.
Okay, it's Wednesday, June 12th. So we had a little bit of an issue. Let me show you. So what we've had, if you see up here, I think I showed you last time that we had a lot of rain clouds moving in. We had a lot of rains. So last night, well, let's say yesterday, it rained the entire day, overnight, day, then back into the overnight today. So the Garlow, if you can remember a week ago, when I showed you, we could still see on the top side, you could still see some dry spots and some rocks. Well, that's no longer. Okay. Wouldn't be that big of an issue, but it has almost completely wiped the retaining wall out. So you see right there, our retaining wall on this far side. So there's the top side of the pit. That's the top side of the pit. As you can see, I had to let the pit, we had to pull everything out of the pit because it's definitely not safe to be working in there with this wall. Only right here you can see this, it just keeps breaking away. This morning, this whole section was still whole here. So if we keep getting rain, it's gonna wipe this out relatively soon. So right here is the real thin spot, which is drastically reduced since this morning. So it's just eating away at it little by little. This is all we have left protecting our pit. But the problem is you can almost watch the river go up throughout the day. So if we were sure it was staying at the level it was at, then we have a pretty good barrier there, but it's taking this upper stuff out and it just keeps going up. So we're working on reinforcing this Friday. So we're gonna start repumping this, reinforcing the wall. I don't know that we'll be able to do anything with the diversion. So, what could happen is sometimes in June, the rains have been uncharacteristically heavy for this time of year. But sometimes in June, what'll happen is you'll get that soaking downpour like that. And then what'll happen is you'll get a week or two of sunshine. If that happens, the river will go back down, or at least the flow will calm down. I mean, you could see the other day when I was shooting this, there was almost no current to this river. And because they're getting rain up, it's all collecting down, the Garlow's swelling, and it's incredible how fast it happens. It really is. It's really, truly incredible how fast it happens. So that's the, all the areas we used to use and work in are all flooded in. You can see up there, the wash plant. I'll update that on Friday, but that should be running on Friday. All the plumbing's in. I need a few screws. I had a couple wrong sizes that we bought, so we need a couple screws, and I have one feed line to plumb in. Other than that, everything is pretty much plumbed and ready to go. So We'll be running that this week, and I'll update that and put that in with this on Friday, because this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'd like to go to, I mean, it's really at the point where you don't even feel safe up here. I'd like to get, I'm gonna cross over the other way and kind of shoot that front side so we can kind of compare it to what I had last week. But you know, this is what we deal with. The roads are just the roads have taken a major turn. So the trip up here, I don't know, we probably had at least an additional 45 minutes onto our trip, just because, you know, a couple spots people were stuck. You know, it's just rainy season roads. So let me see if I can get up onto the other, crawl over to the other side. And but you can see what we started doing is opening that line up. So in lieu of being able to get gravels out of that last part of the pit we wanted to, we're going to start clearing this. When the dozer gets here, we'll clear all that overburden over the top, and we'll start opening and chasing this line. They were working on that all day today, pulling gravels out of that. And those are the gravels we'll use to test the plant before we run any of the gravels that are up there. So we'll test with those gravels and make sure we're dialed in. And with the simulated stones we have. Yeah, so now here we're just actively chasing the line. Chasing the line up, chasing those gravels up. They're starting to deepen a little bit. We're hoping we get some kind of drop in there. That would be epic. And so we're just continually reinforcing this side as well, because at some point, if we do get a breach here at some point of the rainy season, you know, we want to make sure that this is protected to this gravel line here. Not that the water would get up that high. Okay. So what we were looking at last time, tons of exposed soils. There was a lot of sticks sticking up, things like that. You know, there was a log over there that was a vertical log that had probably 4 feet of it showing. That was straight across over there. If you remember, I was pointing out a bypass and there was a straight trunk sticking up. You can't even see it. And it probably had a good 4 feet. So this had a hugely, like a huge rise. Very, very big rise. So, you know, we're still gonna try to target this diversion. If possible. See, this is starting to eat away too as this rises. So what we would do is, this is almost like a little island here. So we're gonna close off one side, let all the water flow the other way, get across to the other side, open this back up, and then close the other side. But it's flowing, so we'll see what happens. All right. Okay. It is Friday, June 14th. The good news is, since the last video on Wednesday, we have had some really hot days today. Today was blistering hot. We had a quick shower, but I think this is all just passing. I don't think it's going to really do much. So if we can string together a few days like we just had, if we can get 2 weeks, you know, sometimes we get the rains in June and then they kind of taper off. If that occurs, the water level does drop fast enough. So if we had like a 8-foot swell, 6 to 8 foot swell the other day, we've probably gone, oh, here's a good look. You can see on that side bank. Let me adjust this, sorry. So right there on the side banking, you can see the high wet mark. So that was the peak of the swell on Wednesday. And now we're down, I don't know, let's call that 2 feet, 2.5 feet. Obviously much calmer than it was the other day. Still higher than we'd like to see it, but it's promising in the fact that if we continue to get dry days and string them together, this will start to go down. We can still head over and do our diversion on the other side, coming back out to here and attack this. So we got the pump back going in the pit. That's going to take, you know, so what we're betting here is in the 2 days, if we maintain no rain in the, you know, 1.5 days or so that it's going to take to pump this pit, we get enough drop over here and then we can get back in here. So that's what we're hoping on right now. The wash plant, there it is. The wash plant is 99.999% done. So everything is hooked up plumbing wise. All the electric's been tested. The last holdup is the electric pump. One small issue with the pump. I was planning on staying over tonight, finishing the trommel setup and running it all day tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to have to head back and grab a couple things. So that's the Friday update. I'll update you. I'll string in another one after. I would show you the level over there, but you know, we get it. So when I come back, finish up the plant, have water running through it Sunday or Monday, I'll string that into this and then we'll put it all together. But this is encouraging. Let's hope it remains this way. Hand washing still going on, having a good day with that. So see what the weekend brings, but a lot of blue skies today, and it was like really intense heat. So the way we haven't had that kind of heat in a while. As you can see, I'm drenched in sweat from working on the plant, but we haven't felt that kind of heat in a while, so that's promising. So you know, it felt like dry season heat. So let's hope we get this little spell here of some dryness, you know, or you know, very small showers. Here at Cat with the Beast. Trailer mod. Picking up the dozer. Through its paces a little bit. Beautiful machine. XL, so that's the extra horsepower. Wednesday, January 19th. She's alive. We're doing some electrical adjustments on the first jig there, but all the other ones are running. We are about to start feeding some gravel through momentarily, adjusting some of the water discharge up top. So our water flow right now is really good. We really opened up this spray bar. Try to hold everything in a bit longer, get everything through. So that's looking great. We have the vibrator going, which we never used to run because we had to run it a bit slower. So because we're going to be able to run it a bit quicker, we have that going to aid us. We should be done with this jig in just a few minutes. Just making an adjustment on the motor. See, that one's running. I mean, they're not going to be pumping great right now because there's just water in there, but she is up and running. So then down here is the finishing jig. There's the protector down there. So finishing jig pumping away. Little sluice mat there. We're running all of our discharge. Well, there's our main discharge on the far side, and then our sand discharge is just running through this just for an extra capture and just so we can be sure what's going on. So we're really just using that as like a riffling system of capture, but nothing should really be over there. There's 141. We'll update in a minute. All right, here we go. Officially the first scoop into the plant. Protector in the backhoe. This is gravel from the hill to test it out with. We have the vibration extremely low, almost smooth. We're gonna see, start with that. We'll have to make a lot of adjustments to the plant as we go, but we'll start there and see what happens. There it is. Officially back in action. See what happens. So just be some tweaking and prodding from here, but I think we're pretty close the way we are right now. There's our sands coming out of the left side. No gravel, just sand. Working really good. Gravels will start to make their way through here and then start popping out here. Oh, and it's getting a good wash there. A little bit of sand creeping over to the second side, but not bad at all. I was expecting it to be worse than that. There go the gravels in, making its way through. I'm gonna need some more water here, but see what happens. All right. Whew. We've been running, testing, tweaking. Right now it's in a pretty good spot. So we've been feeding for a while. The sand separation is incredible. It's working way better than I even imagined. Took the pipe apart. Yeah, so the sand separation, let's get a look at it here. The screen is staying clean. Separating sand like crazy. Protector, let me get in there. So you got the first run, all sand, some small, second run, gravel. Okay, so as I was saying, the sand screen right there is working incredible. Look at the sand pouring out. The sand's going down and we're running it through a little system. I'll show you that. All the gravel is coming through on this side, evenly dispersed here. We've got some water shoots in there to break it up. Coming down and going to the two first jigs, taking most of the gravel. Sand's gone, and in the sands, yeah, I mean, it's tiny. That sand screen is working really good. Really, really good. The jigs are working great. They're starting to build up their bed. So you can see here, we'll get in on this one. Starting to build up its bed. Starting to waste out over the end. Bottoms are running good. This one needs a little bit of an adjustment, but so we're generally trying to run pretty heavy out the bottom. So we have a pretty heavy flow coming out the bottom, but we have the jigs almost wide open on top, so we're not losing any of that pressure we need. So they're running great. So that's the upper jigs. So right side, the gravel box split into two, half of it coming here and splitting up, half of it going here and splitting up. The bottoms of these jigs, because they have the rougher screens in them, are running. The one on the right side is running to this jig, run on the other side this jig. They look like they're sloshing, but let me show you, they're actually not. They're jigging really well on the bottom. It's just taking them a while to get enough material in there. So we put a bed of, you know, what we call samples in there. So it's down in here, and it just sucks my hand right down. So it has a little ways to go before this bed's gonna build up to the rim and start discharging anything. But they're running great, running really great. Again, we have the heavy flow coming out the bottom, and then we're just running it through a screen, jig screen, and then down a mat just in case. So the sands, this is interesting. The sands are coming straight down from the left box, down this pipe here. We also have the over the top of the finishing jig running into here. So we just took one of the local jigs. We're running it through the box. Under here we have metal riffles and carpeting. And then in here we actually have jig screen with metal bars, which has given us this nice wave out. Nothing's jigging. We're just using it as a form of a sluice, and it's running great because we're capturing what's coming out here, and from the sand screen, I'll try to show you if I can, the size of stuff coming out. Tiny, minuscule. So, oh, here I got a whole bunch. So that's what we're finding, mostly sand. Smaller, you know, if anything is in here, it's going to be like probably below a 0.15, a 0.10. Really just sand, nothing substantial. So that sand screen, I'm over the moon with how well that's working to separate out the sand. Here's the hard discharge. So this is the discharge from the top of the two roughing jigs. So roughing jig, discharge here. The gravel will pile up here. We'll always sample that as well. You know, we like to always just capture all of the discharges and be sure. Got some stuff on the cleanser. This is probably going to be really bad, but you know, be sure of our capture rate. So I'm feeding through some of the sample stones as well. I'm not telling Protector how many I'm putting in. So then we could see, I have some that'll fit through the sand screen. And then I have most of the other ones, one size will come down to the finishing and one size will get caught up in the roughers. You know, I'll put a half a dozen or so of each size in there. I'll be interested to see the ones that go through the sand screen. Whereabouts we capture everything here. We capture it in the rifts here, or you know, up on top there's also iron matting and the gold and mineral mats. So I'm interested to see, will those get captured up top in that mat, or will they make it down and go into this mat? But yeah, so you can see this stuff, which really has no size. I mean, no size. This is what's going past the sand screen and coming through the roughers down into the finishing jig. So, I mean, this box, if we were to sift it out, it's 98% sand. It is working incredible. I'm so, like, beyond thrilled with how that sand screen is running. No blockage on it. I got to show you guys again because it's just you know, some of you guys were with us when we had the plant initially set up and we were trying to process sand in Yungaya, and know some of the heartaches we went through there. Just running, great discharge. We have great height on the jigs, so you know, we were able to put a real gradual slope on the discharge running down. So these two lines, this one and that one, are the top of the roughers. This line right here is taking all of the sand down into that box. And I mean, when I say running good, it is running great. So, couple pumps, you set your hand there, couple pumps, and it starts to take your hand right down. And it's running solid all the way around. Good pump, good pause. We had a little bit of problems. So here's the electrical board for running everything. So you got to look at that. Generators over there. Yeah, so we had some, you know, water balance issues early on. So we've been replumbing things, redistributing, changing angles on some of the pipes throughout the day. But right now it's running fairly decent. Pretty happy with how it's running. The sand is just an absolute game changer. To be able to efficiently get the sand, efficiently get the sand out. It's huge. Again, this is just some of the line gravel from going up the line. We wanted to sample with that first. Trommel's running really good. I wish it would spin a little bit better, but let me let you get another look at the sand screen. So right now we have this screen and this screen. So we built it out of the two separate screens just to see if we'd have any issues with clogging. But as you can see, neither one is really clogging at all. So ideally we'd like to go with that all the way around, because this, you know, something flat and skinny could pass this. But the material, like, you can see what's sticking to the screen and not passing. You know, that would be a 0.15 right there. So like this stuff that's getting stuck is tiny. And then in here we got some other stuff. Get another good look in the barrel. See the sand's getting held up there. Rock washing off. Let me get the sand screen again, because this, oh man, this is it for me right here. This picture right here. Sand gone. You know, when I get a close-up of it, there's nothing there. All the gravel's running down this spot. A little bit of the sand, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, not really. Gravel's dispersing between the two of them nicely. Favors the one on the right a little bit more, but we're still working on balancing. Oh, but I love that sand one. Yeah. So, jig pumping. Jig pumping. Jigs are working great. Discharging down. That little doohickey over there. Wow. There's the man in the machine, Edwin. Heating it up. Got the vibrator set really low, so incredible. So, I mean, let me scoot up here out of the noise. This is really so far beyond exciting. So far. Okay, so as I was saying, the jigs are pumping. They're running really well. We're running them with a heavy discharge out the bottom, so no problem with clogs on the bottom. And they are just pumping away. Almost got some rocks. Couple pumps, it'll take my hand down. Running real well. Let's get a look at this one, because this one's running real good. See it pumping. See my hand set right down into it. Pretty much disappears. This jig is running incredible right now. So at this point, you know, we've been tweaking most of the day. You know, water flow here, water flow there. Where do we have gravel flowing? Where don't we? Where it needs more water, where it needs less water, but it dialed in really quick. It's running. The sand screening is just beyond incredible. So, you know, whoever was with us back when we were washing in Yungaya and trying to wash that sand understands the heartache and pain we went through with that. This is like a whole new plant. It's running so well. The sand screen's working so much better than I even imagined. You know, I really thought there'd be some issues to work out with that, but it's separating incredibly. That screen we were able to locate is working really well. It's not clogging at all. That's one thing I was really worried about, is a lot of times that smaller screen will get clogged up with that small, real small gravel, but that's not happening. It's staying real clean. I'll give you another look at that before I wrap it up. So the pit, I had to pull the pump back out of there. So we had Wednesday, the crazy rains. It was like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Friday, I thought, well, we've had a great day of sun. The night before was sun. Maybe we'll get a dry spell, and the water will go down. The 3 days after that were a complete washout. So that far side wall is so compromised. I just don't feel safe putting anyone in the pit. So we're just working up this gravel line. You can see here we've gone a lot further up the gravel line. We're pulling those gravels out. We're going to start parking those. Oh, here's a great look at the plant. Come over here. As you can tell, I'm soaked and mudded head to toe. It's been a challenge with getting everything running like it is right now. But there's a great look. Roughing jig discharge, sand discharge. You know, that little contraption, it doesn't look too pretty, but because it's moving in so many different directions and it has so many riffles and it has a sedimentary, you know, I think it's really going to do a good job at just catching those really small diamonds that we're expecting to go through the sand screen. Finishing jigs running great. The roughing jigs are running incredible without the sand. The trommel itself is running really great. It'd be nice if the trommel barrel would spin a little quicker, but you know, it's nice and slow and steady. It gets a good wash. It gets through. We're you know, I'll try to figure out what rate we've been feeding for most of the day. Initially, I wanted, when we first fired up, I was having him run at about 10 tons an hour just to get a good idea of where we stood with that. And then, you know, we picked it up and went quicker than that. We went slower than that, just to kind of really feel everything out. So 916 running great, 250 dump running great, 345 is back up and running. The loader is not running. The backhoe is running. The 330 in Garlow number 50 is running great. They're just preventatively installing a new lift pump, fuel lift pump on it tomorrow, but it's running and working today. So we, you know, we hit a little downturn where some stuff was down, but like we go through now, everything is firing and working, which is great. We can attack this line. The plant, most of all, is set up and doing its thing, which is incredible and running so well. Let's get in on those sands again. All right, let's get in on these sands again, because I'm gonna have the guys shut down soon. Look at this. This is it right here. Oh man. Nothing but sand. Gone. Nothing but gravel. So we flattened the front of this one, put it into two so that it would disperse evenly. So this sluice is working good. That's a wrap. Jig's working. Oh, relief. So, yeah, dialing in. You know, in the past has been crazy. It would take us a super long time. We got it dialed in quick. Getting the sand out of it is, I don't know. I'll just keep saying it over and over because I'm just amazed by what that did to the plant and how well this is running. So that's it. This is number 19. Plant set up and running. Monster pile of gravels to wash. Monster pile of gravels. I mean, when you really get the perspective on it, come all the way around. This is going to take us a good long while to wash. A lot of steady washing. So I'm going up an incline now, but I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Goes deep back the other way, banked in. There's the plant doing its thing. So that's pretty much the update from here. So we'll just continue washing, tweaking the plant, fine-tuning it. We'll go from there. All right, out from 19.
It is so exciting and relieving to see that our Savannah plant is back up in action and fully functional. It looks amazing in that video. I can't wait to see future videos showing all of our pay gravels running through it and the results we're going to be seeing as we process that stockpile that we already have in place. And not only do I speak for myself, but I'm sure I also speak for all of our partners, both limited partners and joint venture partners, when I express my gratitude to Armando and his family and our Liberian staff who have sacrificed so much, particularly in this last year, to accomplish everything that we have at Garlow Claim 19. And it was an immense struggle, and we never gave up. And we can see what that perseverance brings to us. And that's the attitude that we take into everything that we do and everything that we work towards. So I'm just very thankful to Armando for pushing through, even when he was exhausted and discouraged, and times when I am certain he was ready to just call it quits, being in Liberia pretty much all alone, and oftentimes nothing going in our favor for long periods of time. So just very thankful for that, and also, of course, thankful for all the limited partners and joint venture partners, not only currently that helped get us across the line, but those that got behind us and supported us, whose shoulders we are standing on now to accomplish these last few tasks. So excited where we're at right now as a company. So, a few other updates before we wrap this up. I will try my best to keep it brief. But as we move forward into full commercial production, Armando's workload is only going to grow. The amount of time that it takes to sort, evaluate, and process the diamonds is immense. So we have been moving forward with bringing back Ryan and Olivia onto full-time staff in Liberia. For those that are not aware, Ryan and Olivia are my oldest son and my daughter-in-law, and they worked with us in EarthSource since the very beginning, and they really grew considerably over the years with the level of responsibility, their skill set, and we came to rely on them very heavily for wash plant monitoring to be sure that it is finely tuned at all times for maximum capture. They also make sure that all the testing is accomplished for any possible diamond loss. And they also run our secure finishing room for all the final processing of both the gold and the diamonds that are coming off of the wash plants. So they have already moved forward, giving their notice in their current jobs that they've been holding down since they've been home following the Ebola virus. So they are moving full steam ahead to get back to Liberia. We're still working out details, and we'll let everybody know in a future update exactly when we expect them to be in country, but it will be in the month of July by the time they are able to kind of wrap up everything here in the States. When they go over, they will be going over on longer stints than what we used to do, where we used to rotate out quite frequently to give everybody breaks. We are not doing that moving forward. The staff from the US that we do send over, Armando being the only exception, as he has to process diamond exports for the near future. Any of us that go over there, we will be staying longer term, both to save expense to the company and to be more efficient there in Liberia, We also don't have the redundancy of US staff to be able to rotate off of. So they are ready to go. They're going to live there full time, and it's going to be very exciting to see them plug in, take a massive amount of workload off of Armando. They'll be able to help oversee Amos run the site, provide him any guidance, make sure everything is to our standards, and run the finishing room. Also, we are glad to announce that Ruben has been able to keep all of our heavy equipment up and running. He was juggling a lot the last few months, trying to get it all up, but currently we have, of course, our new Lieber 916 that's been running since we bought it. It's brand new. It just, you turn the key, it runs, and it runs all day, and it runs every day. That's how we accomplished so much in our pit excavation without any other pieces of equipment to assist. It had to remove all the overburden. It had to pull out all the pay gravel. It had to keep the sidewalls built up. It did a lot of work since April when we brought it over to Claim 19. But in the last few weeks, Ruben was able to get our Cat 345 excavator, that's our largest excavator, back up and running. He had rebuilt the engine where we threw the piston earlier this year. He completely rebuilt it, and he also rebuilt the radiator cooling fan motor, which was most likely the culprit that caused the engine to seize up on us. The fan was spinning, it looked like it was operating, but now that he tested that motor and rebuilt it, it's very obvious to see that that fan was not running anywhere near the RPM that it was supposed to be to keep that engine cool under a heavy workload. So the 345 is running like a top right now, helping the Lieber 916. You also saw in today's video that we picked up the new Cat D6 dozer from the Cat dealership. We were hoping when larger funds started coming in that we would be able to scoop up equipment either from the Lieber dealership or the Cat dealership right there in Monrovia. But by the time some of those funds started coming in, there was no equipment that was appropriate for us to purchase, either because it wasn't sized correctly or it was out of budget. So we basically gave our wish list to both dealerships. They gave us competitive bids. And surprisingly, the Cat dealership, who's under new recent ownership, is finally feeling the competition from the Lieber dealer. So we got an amazing deal on that D6 dozer. We had to bring it in from, I believe it came in from Brussels, but it came in a little over a week and a half ago. The Cat dealership fully serviced it, and we picked it up, as you saw in the video, and we delivered that to the St. John River Ferry side of Garlow that you've seen in some of our past video updates when Armando took the ferry across the St. John River. So the new D6 first job is going to be preparing that road from the ferry to Claim 19 so that we can get our larger logistical trucks through there with the fuel during the whole course of rainy season. And it also saves us an immense amount of time because taking the ferry side, it's paved road all the way to the ferry just about. So that's much easier driving than the jungle driving that really beats up the trucks and takes a lot of time in the rainy season. And we can just cut across right to 19. Once the dozer makes it to Claim 19, weather dependent, it's either going to help push the river bypass back so we can continue working in the pit until heavy rains hit, or if the rains just continue to persist, we will use it to help remove overburden that the two excavators are working on now for that upper gravel shelf that we're chasing inland. If that job is accomplished, once it is, we do have some other road work that we need to do on the west side of the Garlow area, opposite side of the ferry. We also have our D6 dozer up at Henrytown that is almost complete. Ruben has been rebuilding that, like he rebuilt the Cat 330 excavator earlier this year, basically restoring hydraulics, electrical, sensors, pretty much everything on the unit back to factory spec. And he's almost done with that. I believe the last step is a water pump that is being rebuilt for the coolant circulation. That should be done anytime now. Once the dozer is fully functional and gets his seal of approval, we will be tracking that down from Henrytown down towards Garlow. We will be cleaning up the road where it's needed between Henrytown and Bopaloo. Bopaloo is the halfway point to Garlow where we have a security house. And the main purpose for doing that road work on the way from Henrytown down to Bopaloo is because we are moving forward with a contingency plan that we've had in place for a second wash plant. So in the previous update, we discussed that we were moving forward with the purchase of a brand new Dove wash plant. Unfortunately, due to several circumstances, we were not able to place the order within the window of opportunity that we needed to be sure that it arrived in Liberia prior to the heavy rains. Once the heavy rains are in full force, it will be almost impossible to get that kind of wash plant delivered safely to one of the Garlow sites. So we are actively moving forward on our wash plant contingency plan. As most of you know, we have a $750,000 MSI trommel up at Henrytown. That was our very first wash plant that was designed for classification of soil for gold processing. And it's a 125 ton per hour wash plant. It's actually a beautiful wash plant, very well made. The only problem was the actual gold capture system attached to it, which was a sluice system, was not appropriate for West Africa and the high silt and clay content. It had a very hard time capturing alluvial gold, especially the flour gold that we have up at Henrytown. So we were initially under the impression that using a trommel for diamond processing would need at least 2 levels of classification in the trommel barrel, which we have on our Savannah trommel, where it classifies 0 to 5 millimeters and then 5 millimeters to 25 millimeters. Of course, we changed that when Armando modified it to pre-screen out the sand first so that we eliminate the sand from bogging down the jigs, and the jigs can just concentrate on gravel and diamonds and the gold that may make it there if it's nuggety. But over the last few months, we've been talking to a lot of engineers and people very experienced processing diamonds as we've been looking at speccing out the Dove plant appropriately and also other plants as alternatives to the Dove plant before we decided to go with that. But it was very clear that there's no reason to classify into multiple sizes at the trommel level as long as you have the proper pass-through jigs to handle the broad spectrum of gravel size coming out of the trommel. So we can easily replace the current screening that's in the MSI trommel that's at like 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch with screens that we can build ourselves right in Liberia that will be set at an aperture as large as 1.5 inches. And the advantage to that is, first, by building our own screens, which we have done in the past, the urethane screens that came with the unit from MSI had been wearing out when we were using it last. And to completely replace the urethane screens, urethane is like a plastic, very hardy plastic. To replace all those screens from MSI is over $40,000, and it takes several months to have them specially made and shipped. So back years ago when they started to wear out, Ruben came up with the design where we built a metal frame with screening to whatever aperture size that we want that is built between the metal framing that snaps right into place, just like the square urethane panels that snap into place. So we can build those easily ourselves in our own shop at 1.5 inches. That's the only change we have to do for the MSI trommel. Everything else stays the same. And the other advantage is most trommels come standard from the factory at 25 millimeters. That's a little less than 1 inch in diameter. And we already know that our region in Garlow is a bit abnormal in that there's a high frequency of very large diamonds that come out all around the sites where we're working. 50 carat, 70 carat, 100 carat plus. Almost all of those size stones would be rejected by a standard trommel aperture, even at 25 millimeters, like just under 1 inch. And so any of your large diamonds get rejected by the trommel and put into the tailings, basically the waste of the wash plant. And somebody would have to go sorting through all the gravel that gets rejected out of the end of the trommel barrel looking for diamonds that we might have missed. So obviously that is not the best way to go about it. So we can very comfortably make the aperture size for the trommel barrel up at about 1.5 inches, maybe even a little larger than that, so that we get the possibility of capturing these larger carat sized diamonds. Then we would match up to our MSI trommel the proper dove pass-through jigs. So we have two leads on where we would get those dove jigs from. First, we are trying to see if we can purchase some used ones just across the border in Sierra Leone. There's a lot of equipment sitting over there that is not in use due to companies that never came back after the Ebola virus. So our good friend Perry, who mines in Sierra Leone, has been putting his feelers out the last few weeks, and he's located at least two large enough dove pass-through jigs that are available. So we are trying to check on the condition of those jigs, and we're negotiating on price to get that price down as low as we can. If we can move forward with that, and hopefully if we can find a few other components to go along with that, maybe even some smaller jigs to use as finishing, kind of like we have on the current Savannah setup. We'll see what we can get. The nice thing, if we can purchase these in Sierra Leone, not only will we save money because we're getting good used equipment, but it's literally 60 miles across the border. We can send one of our logistics trucks over there, pick it up, and bring it right back over within the week and get that easily out to site. Now, if for some reason we don't like the dove jigs that are in Sierra Leone, perhaps they're too beat up or they're asking too much money for them, we have the option of purchasing brand new dove jigs directly from Dove, just like we were going to buy the wash plant. Most of them that would be appropriately sized to match up to our trommel. Looks like are in stock. So we're just waiting for some quotes on those. So if we need to buy brand new ones, which it's always nice to have new, especially in Liberia, we know that with heavy equipment as well. That can be delivered pretty quickly. If they have it in stock, we could probably have it in Liberia in less than 30 days. And even if the rains are full on, which at that point they would be, because we'd be at the tail end of July, a single jig we can easily fit on the back of one of our logistics 4x4s and drive that out to the site, even if it took a whole day to get it through the mud and the slush. And one by one, get those jigs out to whatever site we've put the MSI trommel on. So that is the contingency plan we're moving forward with, so that not only will we have our Savannah plant running at 19 and a second plant that we could probably run somewhere between 60 and 70 tons per hour, depending on what jigs we end up matching up with it. So that is our contingency plan for the wash plant. The other advantage moving forward with the contingency plan is, since we're not spending such a large amount of money right now for a brand new wash plant, we are able to use those funds to purchase more heavy equipment, which we definitely need more heavy equipment. during this rainy season, moving into this coming dry season, so that when this new dry season hits, we have all the equipment ready to go and we can really maximize the up and coming dry season. So we have our wish list already with the dealerships. They are working on locating the other units. We want some more excavators, at least one more dozer, another backhoe. We have a whole list of things that we need that they're working on as they locate the appropriate unit at the price that we negotiate, that we can accept within our budget. We will pull the trigger on each piece as they come available. So we expect a pretty steady flow of new heavy equipment coming in to us throughout this rainy season. We also recently ordered 2 more logistics trucks to add to our current Renault TRM 2000. The TRM 2000 is a 2.5 metric ton 4x4. It's a military truck that we use to deliver fuel and supplies to the sites. We have been using just one of those. We've only had one of those in service this entire year, year and a half. And it's been very difficult to get everything to site with just one 2.5 ton truck. We've been beating it up very bad. So every time it comes back, it's usually down for 3 days to be rebuilt and sent back out. And the guys go really slow with it to reduce the wear and tear on it. So bringing 2 more logistics trucks in right now is huge, especially as we roll into rainy season. We ordered 1 more TRM 2000, the 2.5 metric ton 4x4, and we ordered a larger Mancat 1, which is a 5 metric ton truck, so it has twice the capacity, also a 4x4. If you've just been listening to the audio, take a look at your screen again, and I will place both the Renault TRM 2000 and the Mancat 1 pictures that were sent to us as they came out of the paint booth at the end of last week. Both units are on the way to port to get on the ship that leaves, I believe, June 28th, and we should have it within about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We haven't seen the actual shipping schedule yet. We should have that by the next update. The trucks are also shipping with spare tires for all the units, as well as some additional spare parts and some spare parts for our current TRM 2000 that needs some tender loving care. So that is all heading out. They will be welcomed members of our fleet. They'll be put to immediate use as soon as they get out of port. So we've been going a little over an hour at this point. There's other topics that we have on our list to discuss. I'm going to reserve those for future updates. The most important part, Armando shared with us, and that's the fact that our wash plant is installed, it's operating, everything works, it's functional. He is going to be spending the next following weeks operating the plant, testing for any additional losses of diamonds as we start to run actual pay gravels. Everything you saw in that video was just test soil, wasn't actual from our stockpile. We don't want to waste or lose anything that we know that's in that stockpile. So as he transitions over to the stockpile, we'll be watching that wash plant very closely. We'll be testing all the different discharges to make sure we're not spitting diamonds out. And usually we shake out the whole system, even as far out as a month for fine tuning. But it looks like in the video, he's very confident that we have it 90% there. So to wrap this update up, I want to quickly answer 2 primary questions that we have been receiving in some frequency the past few weeks to a month. The first question is, when will we begin receiving joint venture net profit payouts? The answer to that question is we first need to achieve net profits. So let me quickly define what are net profits so that you can understand when those will occur. When we run the wash plant, process the concentrates that come off the wash plant, and do a final separation of our golden diamonds, we then need to take those to market. We've discussed this in the past. We will do that as quickly as possible in the manner that gives us the most amount of profits to be able to disperse, balanced against the time it takes to do that. When those goods are sold, the gold and the diamonds are sold at market, we receive from that sale gross profits. From those gross profits, we need to first disperse the obligation to our site partners. In this case, on claim 19 is the Jones brothers. So they receive their site royalty. We also need to pay our export taxes and fees to the Liberian government. We need to set money aside for the corporate tax. We then need to cover ongoing costs to operate the company. Without being able to provide the funds to continue to run the wash plant, there is no production. Without production, there's no sales. Without sales, there's no cash flow. So first priority is the company has to be healthy. We need to cover the ongoing costs to operate. The average cost right now at the phase we're in, on average per month, is between $120,000 and $150,000. That pays for the payroll, that pays for all the fuel that we burn through, that pays for maintaining the equipment, so on and so forth. So the cost to operate the single site at the stage we're in before we start really expanding is relatively small. It doesn't take a lot of diamonds to be able to cover $150,000 in operating costs each month. Now, we're not going to want to be moving forward month to month, like hand to mouth. So we're going to want some safety net that's set aside for operations. So if we have an issue with the wash plant, an issue with some heavy equipment, and we're not able to run it for a certain amount of time, we're not coming back to all of our investors saying, please send some profit disbursement back to us because we need some more money to keep the wash plant going. We don't want to be in that position. So at any given time, we will probably reserve 3 to 4 months worth of operating funds in the bank account so we can weather any issues that we have moving forward. That's not an unreasonable amount. It's actually not a lot of money for the cleanouts we've been having by hand. So we're not expecting it to be overly burdensome to be able to provide that from the wash plant production. So once we've covered those things, what is remaining is our net profits. So from the net profits, we first need to cover our joint venture obligations to our joint venture partners. They're in the first position. They are the people that provided the immediate funds we're using right now to get these sites operational. So in everybody's agreement, our goal is to pay out 20% of your principal plus incentives per net profit payout. So we want to have enough sales completed and money in the bank that we can complete a first legitimate, as contracted net profit payout to everybody. We want to avoid doing partial payouts and having to do all that paperwork, trying to juggle who gets what. We want to be able to have our first payout be as described in our joint venture agreement. As we're able to meet those on a regular basis and we still have an excess of net profits, then we're able to do some more things with those net profits. That includes starting to pay down our diamond flipping program lenders. They're next in order of position because those were structured as loans. So we will be discussing as we get to that point with our DFP lenders, how do we want to move forward as a group with our diamond flipping program? Do we want to reconstitute it and pick up where we left off? Do we need to just concentrate on operations that we have going now and the expansion of those and just pay it out as the loan structure that it was done as and just get the loan payments out? Or do people want to roll those over into, if we have room, perhaps a joint venture position? If we see that we have more than enough production to first meet the current joint venture obligations, or do people want to wait and roll it over into limited partnership units so that they can expand their member units in the triple LP, which everybody who is a diamond flipping lender is a limited partner. So everybody already has a limited partner position. So we have those options on the table for our diamond flipping program. We'll discuss that more directly with you diamond flipping program lenders as we get there. Then when we are able to handle those two obligations and we have an excess of net profits, we will then start distributing whatever is left to our limited partners. If you remember, the principal partners, Armando, Mike, and myself, we have waived all of our right to any profit share until the joint venture obligations are met and all of our limited partners are made whole. What does being made whole mean? That means all of your principal has been returned. Once we've achieved that, once the limited partners have been made whole, then the three principal partners will again resume, not even resume, we've never done it. We will start to partake in our share of the profits, as described in the limited partnership agreements and in all of our documents. So it is in the principal partners, Armando, Mike, and myself, it's in our best interest to have net profit payouts going out as quickly and in a large manner as possible so everybody can be met with their obligations, and the third position, our limited partners, are actually made whole, because we do not see any profit share from all of our work, all of our efforts, until those three things happen. We want to see that happen as soon as possible. So we are very motivated to have net profits going out to everybody possible as soon as possible in the largest amounts possible. We want to have that accelerated so we can get to the point where we can start sharing with you in those profits. So we're very motivated for that. The second question that we have been receiving is the joint venture still open for capital? We still have some people that missed the opportunity. They weren't able to move forward quick enough. So yes, the joint venture is still open for additional capitalization. People can still send funds in. However, the last update 3 weeks ago, we suspended all incentives and we reduced the finder's fee back down to the normal 10%. We had been doing the 100% matching for a good long while. Now that we are no longer needing so badly the funds, and also since we have finally got to the point where the wash plant is functional, we felt we no longer had to incentivize the funds coming in to quite the extent we had been doing to get interest and get people to move forward. So you can still invest, you can still come in as a joint venture partner. However, there is no incentives currently moving forward at this time. So you invest $1, it's treated as $1. It's on par. For those who want to refer people, we still have a 10% finder's fee available for any referrals. The standard JV contract, where there's no incentives, you are still doubling your money. You still receive 100% profit on the principal, the capital that you invest, plus you get your capital back. So if you put in 10,000, you make 10,000 in profit, plus you get your 10,000 back. So you put 10,000 in, you get 20 back. So that's how it works for everybody, but some people at certain times received additional incentives above and beyond that. So that unfortunately has been discontinued. We've moved beyond that. The funds that do come in, we can definitely use them. We can put those directly to work, either supporting operations until the wash plant is picking up the slack, or applied towards additional equipment acquisition. So we can definitely put additional funds to use. If you are interested, please reach out to us and we can have that conversation. So that wraps up this update. This was probably one of our longest updates, but it was great news that Armando had to share with us. It was great seeing the site so well advanced, and finally developed to the point that we have been striving for so long, for so many years. So thank you everybody again for your support. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking behind us. And we're looking forward to all the updates we're going to be having and profit disbursements that we'll be sharing. So thank you very much. Have a great day. We'll see you at the next update.